Hello! So Microsoft have released, or Asobo have released, the Ford Trimotor for Flight Simulator, and it's available as a free download from the marketplace at the moment. So I don't think it'll be free forever, so by all means go and grab a copy of it. It's really, really lovely, so you can see the modelling of it. It's fantastic. We're on the ground at Booker Airfield, by the way. So we're going to have a look at the Trimotor and take it for a flight. So yeah, just looking at the material modelling around the aircraft, it really is something else. Obviously when you move the control surfaces around, you see there's various pieces that are external and go through holes in the wing and things like that, and you know, out through further holes, so you can see all of the cables and pulleys and things all working. It's really fantastic the way it works. Anyway, let's go and jump inside the aeroplane. So the quality of rendering continues inside. The various dials and switches just look photographic. It's quite stunning really. Even the patterning of the floor and wear and tear, it's very, very good. So even down to the buckles, even though you wouldn't normally be seeing them while you're flying because you're looking out of the cockpit instead of down at your seat, looks like a photograph. So the cabin is really nicely modelled as well. So the pilots don't have direct access to the cabin, but we can look down through it. It's really, really good. Okay, so on the wall behind the pilots you get the various shut-off valves. So there's the right engine shut-off valve, there's the reserve shut-off, there's the elevator trim with an indicator, there's the left engine shut-off valve, emergency fuel cut, and then the centre engine shut-off valve is down here. So when the lever is against the side of the fuselage, it means that the valve is open. Okay, so we've got a priming control over here, so we can flick that between left engine, centre and right, and we've got the primer which you rotate to unlock, and then you can operate. So that locks it, that unlocks it, and then we can operate it. Okay, so we'll move the lever around to the left engine. Okay, so in terms of starting the engine, it's quite interesting. So we've got mixtures, so we'll put the mixtures to rich for the three engines. We've got starters, which are down here. I guess in some aircraft you might call those energizers. And then you've got solenoids. So you've got battery here. We'll turn the battery on. We're going to put some lights on as well to tell people on the ground that we're in the aircraft. So yeah, you've got solenoid switches here. So the sequence you do things in is you prime an engine, you activate the starter, then you activate the solenoid, and then you activate the magneto for the engine, and hopefully that should start it. So you'll see master ignition is already on in the default cold and dark state, so we don't have to worry about that. The shut-off valves are already open as well. Okay, so let's go and work through that. So we've got left engine selected. We'll prime it 4 times. 3 or 4 times seems to be the magic number. We're going to make sure the throttles are mapped. They are. So mixture's already on rich. So we hit the starter for... Oh, we're doing left engine first, aren't we? So left, we push it down. We wait for about 10 seconds. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So again, we're energizing the circuit. So then we go turn the solenoid on, and we turn the magneto for the left engine, and we should get a start on it. It's thinking about it. And it didn't work that time, and we get a load of smoke pouring out of it. So that's what happens if it doesn't work. So we'll go and turn the magneto back off, and we turn off the solenoid. So again, I probably need to crack the throttles open before I do this. Alright, let's try that again then. So make sure we've got left engine on the priming control. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we hit the solenoid. We count to 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go for it on the solenoid switches, and then magnetos as well, and we have an engine start. So it just shows, even if you follow the procedure, sometimes it might not work. So you just have to go and reverse back through the process. Okay, next one. So we prime 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we activate the starter for the center engine. We wait for 10 seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Solenoid. So notice the starter actually popped back up there. And then magnetos. And we were too slow. Oh no, we caught it just in time. So that engine's running as well. Okay, off to the right engine. So we'll try and move it so we can see it over here and all the switches. So prime it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Push the button down and wait for the. So it looks like we can wait for these to pop up. So 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. There it goes. So then switch on the solenoid. And then once the propeller is spinning, you introduce the magnetos, and it will slow down and then suddenly catch if it's going to. Is it going to? Just thinking about it. No, not this time. So we'll turn the magnetos back off. We'll prime it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, don't do that yet. We do this first. And go. And magnetos. Is it going to go? Give it a go. It's going to catch. It's going to jump up and down. And it's caught. Hurrah. Okay. So we've got the engines up and running. And as you can see, it's a little bit kind of trial and error. So we'll go, and we don't need any other lights on today. We have got nav and comm radios over here, and we do actually have a course deviation indicator over here, so it looks like you can fly ILS in this thing, even though it's of an era before that really existed. Okay, so we come off the parking brake, and we'll ease the throttles forwards, and the aircraft starts rolling. So we can sit up in the cockpit. There's about a 10 knot wind down the runway at Wickham Airpark. You can see the windsock over there today, so we're on live weather. It's a lovely day outside, it's just a bit breezy. So we're going to taxi out. So we can sit up or down in the cockpit. It seems to give quite a good view over the nose actually, sitting up in the cockpit. Okay, so let's open the engines up. Quite a lot of right rudder to hold the centre line. But it's very, very stable. I think this has kind of been dumbed down a little bit to make it easy for people. So we're off the runway, in the air now. Cut the throttle back a little bit, and we can have a look at it in the air. So it looks amazing, doesn't it? So let's go and try out the landing lights, see how bright they are. Not very is the answer. You can see them there. It's kind of its era, isn't it? Okay, so we've got airspeed over here, just slowly accelerating. It's in miles an hour. We've got height here in thousands of feet. Got RPM on the engine, so if we go and push the engine, or push the throttles all the way forwards, let's see what the maximum RPM looks like. It doesn't look like you can damage the engines in it. So I'll look for about 16,000 RPM, which looks fine. It's very cool, isn't it? So when you're manoeuvring like this, it really helps that you have these windows above, so you can look out in a banked turn. So we'll come back in a moment and do an approach. So flying along, if we push it out to 16,000 RPM, you're looking at about 110 miles an hour. It's probably about 100 knots then that it cruises along at. Obviously it's got a binnacle compass here, which is quite a novel design compared to ones I've seen before. It tends to shake around, you can see it bouncing on its supports there. It's very cool. Should we put the yoke back in so we can actually see it? So the yoke is typical of its era. It's like steering wheels on a column. But if you look outside, those columns are actually directly pulling levers which connect with cables through to the tailplane. It's very, very nicely done. And again, you've got cables coming out of the top of the wing and the bottom of the wing for the ailerons. This animation of the spinning propeller is very, very good. Okay, I thought we might fly over towards Elstree, and maybe because it's such a slow plane, we'll just go to Elstree. We won't bother going all the way out to Duxford. So we need to be maintaining about a 80-degree track. So we're just looking here, coming around to 60 degrees. So everything's a bit more rudimentary in these old aircraft, isn't it? There's 70 degrees. So it sits and flies along quite happily. Obviously it doesn't have an autopilot. I'm not sure if the keys to operate an autopilot will work. Shall we try it? No, they won't. So I have no idea if there are any Easter eggs hidden around the aeroplane, or if they've just chosen to keep it very authentic to the real thing. But it works wonderfully. I haven't gone hunting for click spots yet either to see if there's any nice things built in, like, you know, sliding panels or anything like that. This doesn't appear to be clickable at all. Yeah, I've not really looked. Just been concerned with the startup sequence for the engines, really. Okay, so we're flying out towards the Bovington VOR at the moment, accidentally, because I was busy talking and not watching the direction we're flying. So planes of this era, they will weathercock into the wind, so you need to keep an eye on the direction you're going. So if we turn 90 degrees, that'll make it a little bit more straightforward to think about. Got the whole studio complex over at Pinewood or Leavesden, sorry, to use as a waypoint. Lovely aeroplane though, isn't it? So should we go and descend down? So I'll pull the throttles back to 50%. And we'll go low across the fields. How are we doing on the map? About halfway. So we're heading for here. It's very nicely done, isn't it? Okay, so we just need to maintain the same kind of direction we've been travelling, aiming to over here. Let's go and have a scoot across the cockpit, have a look out this side. I imagine these cockpits got quite cold. You certainly need a leather flying jacket, wouldn't you? There's a lake. Rickmansworth, we're just passing over, approaching Watford. It's interesting, look at the side of the strut there has got an RPM gauge that works and an oil gauge and the temperature. That's incredible. So I presume that's true of the other side as well. So if we go and look, yeah, it is, look. Oil temperature, oil pressure and RPM. Very cool. So we've seen the beginnings of the edge of London over there. So we need to turn left. Get a little bit of altitude just so we can see where we're going. So we'll open the throttles up. So we should get visuals. Something down here. Yeah, that's going to be L Street. So we'll circle the airfield before we come in because we're going to have to try and figure out what we're going to do. So let's have a look at the wind in relation to the airfield. So it's coming from the west So we want to land the opposite direction. So yeah, we'll pass the airfield. So we can see the airfield down here. The stuttering you're seeing is just assets being loaded in. I hope they fix that in the new version of Flight Sim when it arrives. Maybe put asset loading in a separate thread or something, but multi-threaded programming is notoriously difficult. Okay. So there's the airfield we're going to land at. So we need to start losing some height. There are no flaps on this aircraft, so it's all down to you with preparation for an approach. Obviously you can side slip, which tends to work wonderfully with these big old aeroplanes, and it was a legitimate method they used to control airspeed. So we'll keep an eye on the airspeed. I don't want to go much below 70. I'm going to use a little bit of backstick already. So let's go and start turning in towards the airfield. Hopefully we're going to get this right. This is my first attempt an approach with this thing. So we're sticking at 80 knots, we're going a bit fast, so I'm going to side slip it a little bit on the way in. When you're side slipping, you don't have much aileron control. Something that's worth knowing. Okay, so let's just straighten it out on the runway. Backstick. And we're looking good. So we'll swing out to one side to give ourselves room to turn. And it turns really nicely, which you would expect, to be honest, with a tail dragger. Although saying that, look, I'm having to give it quite a lot of power to get it to turn the rest of the way. So if you've got the throttles to do it, obviously you could use differential control of the propellers. You could also use differential braking if you've got rudder pedals to do it. Right, let's taxi back in. So you can see at the moment I don't have the... Or do I have the custom scenery installed? Can't remember. I don't think I have the custom scenery for Elstree installed at the moment. So this is the stock version, which isn't terrible. Yeah, the stock... Sorry, the The upgraded version of Elstree, the payware version, has a lot more aircraft parked around the place, and obviously the control tower is nothing like the one in the stock scenery. And we've overshot the turn, so we're going onto the grass. We better avoid the signs before we wipe them out. We'll just park on the grass here. Okay. So let's see what happens when we pull the... We'll do the centre engine first, pull the mixture, and that obviously kills the engine on the spot, which starves it of fuel. It takes a little while for them to stop spinning, doesn't it? And there we go. Okay, so once the aeroplane is on the ground, obviously we can go and turn the various lights off. Whoops, missed the switch there. And we can turn the generator off, battery off, and we're good to go. So yes, there we go, the Ford Trimotor. It's good fun, isn't it? I can see myself flying this around quite a lot. Just, you know, the novelty factor of something a bit slower, a bit more interesting. And it'll be fun in future flights to have a play with the nav radios and see how they interact, because there's no way of choosing a heading. There's no omni-bearing selector as far as I can see. So I'm guessing you just pick up it'll only work with ILS as far as I can see, but we'll find that one out. Okay, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you again soon. So this was the Ford Trimotor, which is available for free at the moment from the marketplace. See you again soon.